Now, I sold $60,000 coaching packages in every realm. So all healing is the same. So sales is actually healing. Like they say, sales is the first coaching conversation you ever have with a client. It's also healing. I had consistently made $500,000 to $750,000 a year working with about 20 clients. So I had multiple gym owners from across the nation reach out to me, basically buy systems from me. So not only was I building my own systems at LA Fitness, I was consulting for other gyms building their systems.
Hello and welcome to the Evolving Potential Podcast. This is episode number 31. Today I have on the show Isaac Ho. Isaac is a health expert, gym owner, and sales and mindset coach specializing in high-ticket sales. Isaac became a personal trainer at the age of 17, got certified in boxing and kickboxing, and got some mentors, and became the head trainer of LA Fitness, where we met. By the age of 22, he took a leap and started his own gym, for which he was able to make 6 figures in his first year. He hired business coaches, mindset coaches, sales coaches, and more, ended up moving into high-ticket sales and mindset coaching to start selling nearly $20,000 packages. As he became the expert, others sought his help, and he began consulting and business coaching. And outside of his desire to grow his business, he's accumulated enough certifications to fill his gym wall, from functional diagnostic nutrition to Enneagram to Neuralink to Counterstrain. I could go on and on. He's now the owner still of a business called Biometry and regularly coaches people as well as lets his business run through successful systems. So thank you for being here, Isaac.
Hey, thanks for having me, Todd. So good to be here with you.
Absolutely, man. So let's go straight into, how do you start a business after being the head trainer? How do you go from trainer mindset to becoming a business owner and then 6 figures? Like what the heck?
Funny, man. It's like I never wanted to be a business owner. So like when I started personal training at 17, I just wanted people to personal train with me, right? And so I was you remember Bally Total Fitness? This is way back. This is like going to date us, yeah? So like Bally Total Fitness, that's where I started. And it was like, there was something called PT Fundamentals. And they're like, okay, who can sell the first training package? And I got an award from PT Fundamentals for being the best in sales. Now, all I did was manage to sell the first out of all the 50 people that came in on the new hires. But I was the first one to sell. And that was like the last sale I actually ever made. Like at Ballard. It was so bad, dude. Like I made like 2 sales total. And so I was like, I really want people to train with me, but there's something about just giving people information. It doesn't work. And so people would do these consults. I was the cold caller. Like you signed up at the gym. I would pick the call up and I'd say, hey, you have a free personal training package. So I did that at 17 and 18. So like you can imagine, great for my self-esteem. And so I was bringing all these people in on this super skinny kid because my background's in kickboxing. It's a weight class thing. They don't look like I belong in the gym. I look like this really skinny kid that's giving out fitness orientations. Like, why is this kid even here? It was not like a fun time for me. And I just really wanted to serve people. I wanted to help them have the kind of transformation I had because I was overweight. When I was 8 years old, I was 155 pounds. So you know what that's like because you have an amazing transformation story.
Been there.
So I wanted people to have the same kind of experience I did in my body where I started feeling good enough to either wear certain clothes, take off layers, just have this experience. But I couldn't get anyone to sign up with me. And so I went to LA Fitness, and you and I talked about this before. It was like this huge miracle where like I actually quit personal training, was at TCC, a community college. Guy comes up to me from Bali and was like, I'm not there anymore. He's like, come to LA Fitness. I'll get you a job here. You don't have to sell. So I went to LA Fitness because I didn't have to sell. And then what happened is the longer I was there, the more I realized that there's a ceiling to how much I'd be able to help people. And so you remember I had the kettlebells, I had the sleds, I had the sandbags, safety squat bar, trap bar. I had a whole gym inside of LA Fitness because I was really focused on delivering the top best experience. I was going to seminars I couldn't afford to go to, living at home, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And so when they said, hey, you have to go back to one-on-one personal training, that is when I drew the line and was like, no, I can't do that anymore. Because I've been training 4 people on custom programs for years at that point. And I flew to California and I studied with a gym. It was like rated the #1 gym in the United States. It was called Results Fitness. I studied with them on their program design course. And that's how I would have 4 people on separate programs, all doing their own plyo work, all doing their own, they called it elasticity work, all doing their own
Nice.
strength work. And I was used to that output. And I was studying with Olympic strength coaches. I had a great mentor called Tim Bagan who introduced me to Luca Hocevar. So my level of training, my level of desire was so peaked that when they were like I was just at that job because I'd been there, and I took a huge leap of faith when they said, "Hey, like, basically closing the door on you being able to practice the way that you practice fitness with people." I was like, "Well, I don't want to do that." I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just told people in my life, like, that door is closing for me.
Mm.
You know what that's like. Hey, that door is
Yep.
closing for me. I'm going into a new door. And so then what happened was there's this trainer, and he said, "Hey, why don't you just bring any clients that want to work with you to my gym, and you just run some classes for me, and we'll just call that a trade. You can use my space, and you can have rent-free access. You just have to come in and run some classes for me." Because he wanted to have a business, not a job. And at that point,
Mm.
he didn't have any trainers. And so he was like, "Here's an opportunity. I'll help this guy get a business, and then I'll also have more of a business." So then that relationship turned into something, and I ran into a same kind of peak thing there, where he was like, "Oh, I had to redo his programming because people were getting hurt." And then people started coming to my classes, and it got to a point where I had like 50 something people in my boot camp, man. And he had like 10.
Jeez.
And he goes, "Where is my gym? I know how many members I have. Where are they?" And he realized really fast that if I left, it was gonna be bad for him. And so he texted me overnight one night, and he was just like, "Hey, you don't have to come in and run any classes anymore. You can still work with your clients. You just have to do it after like 8:30 p.m."
Mm.
Or when I'm done with all my classes, right? And I was like, well, that's not going to work for me because I was putting my clients inside of the training program. That's why I was rewriting the training program. I was customizing things for them. And so how I really became a business owner, man, was that it kind of was left no choice. I was left no choice
Mm.
for where I wanted to go in my life. And a lot of times I'll meet people at seminars and they'll be like, "Wow, how did you know like you had to go on your own path when you were young?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't know. I started as a personal trainer at 17. I studied network administration when I was 15. People are like, "Wow, how did you know that computers wasn't for you?" And I was like, "Well, I just hated it every day." And I didn't go, "I'm so cool. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a rogue. I'm like I'm an outlier." Like there was none of that in my life. It was simply going, what's around me right now that makes sense for me. We talk about
Mm.
flow. That's something you talk a lot about. And I just went like, which of these things can I get myself to flow towards that
Mm.
feels like it lights me up? We'll talk about dopamine later. We have to, because if we talk about plant medicine, we got to talk about dopamine. But
Yep.
it's the same idea. It's like you can get high on your own supply of dopamine. That's actually what you do when you follow a flow state. You can get so high that you can become manic, which is something that's actually happened to me before. Okay. And then if you look at what an antipsychosis medication is, it actually is just a dopamine reducer. So like that's all inside of metabolism. So anyway, we'll probably get into that. The long story short, man, is that I had a lot of mentors. Like every time I wanted to go somewhere, I found someone who already did it. I sold $60,000 coaching packages in every realm: health and fitness, business consulting, emotional wellness. A lot of people go, "You can sell $60,000 emotional wellness programs?" Absolutely, you can. That's just like processing emotions. You can sell
Mm.
$60,000 GI programs. Absolutely, you can sell 60,000. It's like sales is sales, and then showing up is showing up. What you have to understand is the fundamentals that makes that available. And we talked about beyond effort, right? That was something in your
Mhm.
email. You're like, "I want to talk about beyond effort," because effort is just table stakes. Like I was sleeping in my car. I was not able to make it home. I was so tired. You've been there. You know that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You've fallen asleep at your table. That's just old table stakes. So
Yep.
like when people are like, "Oh, I'm a hard worker," it's like, that's awesome. That gets you at the table to play. Now,
Hmm.
if you wanna understand what else you need, well, you need identity, you need mentorship, you need to understand the laws of the universe, you need to understand dimensions, you need to understand there's something inside of trimetrics that I talk about, you need to understand soft skills, hard skills. So I put some of these things down in front of me because those are things that maybe you'd wanna talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the answer to your question.
Yeah. And so was that something really challenging for you to get into the mindset of I'm going to build now a system instead of just working harder, because you've probably been working very hard, working multiple clients back to back to back. Now all of a sudden you're a gym owner, and working hard is an endless pursuit that can burn you right straight into the ground.
I was super fortunate, man, that my mentors, they started me off on a model that was very low. It was like we were making pizzas, dude. We weren't making five-star meals. So like my clients who that I have the blessing of working with, like I got one client who's got over 200 employees, 16 Domino's stores. Okay.
Jeez.
So, multiple seven figures a month. They don't make a complex product. They make pizzas. Even that's hard for 200 people to run a month, right? Like 200
Mhm.
people, like he doesn't even know the first name of a lot of the people that work for him, unfortunately. So like I was making pizzas. So like behind me, I got my first training team. Man, I was so blessed at like 23. I got like 5 people working for me. Okay, at 23.
Mm.
Got a great picture. I just love it. It was gift. It was framed. It was given to me by one of my great friends and a trainer of mine. I built a boot camp system because the first thing I did when I was working to be able to train 4 people at one time, I built drop down menus in Google Sheets, like custom. Okay. And then gym owners started coming to me consulting with me, going like, I want to be able to do that. How are you able to show up and then just pick an exercise based off of that category? And I was like, well, I built a system. And so I had multiple gym owners
Mm.
from across the nation reach out to me and basically buy systems from me. So not only was I building my own systems at LA Fitness, I was consulting for other gyms building their systems. When I went to Results Fitness Program Design Seminar, I met a guy and he was just like, dude, I don't know how your brain works like this. I don't know how you do this. And I helped him do his homework for the class. And later on, he hired me to consult and build his systems out multiple times
Mm.
through the years. And so I've just been consulting for people for so long, man, since I was like 22 or 21 when I was at LA Fitness. Like when we were there, 20 and 21, I was consulting for systems. And so when I made the boot camp system, I built a really complex boot camp. Like even by today's standards, it would be way complex. Like we got density training, we got lactic acid training, we got metabolic disruption between lactic acid. Like my boot camp's ripped. And so if you go to my website and you look at my before and afters and you see people, it's like, that's great. And then I eventually outgrew that because I kept learning. I didn't stop learning. And I'm a titleist performance coach. I've got so many different certs. Like the problem becomes, it's like you get into steel mace, you become in the steel club. Like when I don't know if you know On It by Aubrey Marcus. A lot of people know
Mhm.
Joe Rogan's podcast and things like that.
Yep.
Like I'm certified in their training systems, their steel mace, their steel club, their durability. When I went there and I took their course, I rewrote their steel mace program for them that weekend. Okay. Because it was just not well organized and it wasn't as teachable as like they just hadn't been teaching as many people. And I had a good grasp on those kind of things. So I love systems. Like systems have always been my thing. And fortunately for me, like we talked a little bit about this, it's like every system, if you're making a pizza, it's different than being an artist. So when we talk about business, it's like people think business is scale and systems. When people say they want a business, a lot of times what they really will say is, I want to be my own boss and I'm willing
Mhm.
to have a job. That's different. So like my business that I own is my gym. I don't go there and I don't fulfill. Okay, my art, my values are around healing and performance. I don't scale those. And the reason I don't scale those is because the best things can't be scaled. Best things can't be scaled. So the best Michelin star restaurant dinners is like you go there because you want that specific chef to cook it in that specific way. Now they can get very close. You can have someone else make it, but like hugs from your kids don't scale. We all know that. They say the best things from God don't scale. That's something that
Mm.
I've heard multi people that are almost billionaires tell me. And they're like, a lot of men and a lot of dads and a lot of business owners are trying to get everything to scale. Understand that, like, if you want to build something for scale that's systemized, like a Domino's pizza, that's different. And that means, like, I'll tell you, a lot of these guys that are really wealthy, they're fantastic people. They walk around really dead inside because the Domino pizza does
Mhm.
not feed their values, doesn't feed their values. They have to go get those values met somewhere else. But having 200 employees and having just that kind of business structure, it takes a lot of focus. It takes a lot of energy. And if you're down even just a little bit as the owner, like people start to sense that. And so they can't be down, but they have to find a way to lift themselves up. Does that make sense? Because they can't get their values met in their business. The business is set by corporate standards. Everything's set. Their pricing set, their cost is set, their promotions are set, their pricing, everything. Food cost,
Mm.
everything. Okay. And so a lot of people don't understand. It's like if you want a business, go create a burger shop, create a decent burger, not the best burger, and then scale that burger shop and hire teenagers to do it. That's a great
Mm.
business. Okay. If you want to be an artist and you want to live your values in your business, then you need to become a completely different animal. So, like, I'm the kind of animal where it's like I consistently made 500,000 to 750,000 a year working with about 20 clients. That's the kind of animal that I am. And that's because I'm like an artist. Okay. Now, people are like, do you want to scale that? I'm like, no, I don't want to scale that. I'll tell you what I would scale. I would scale some of my simple products or my simple businesses. People come to me for GI stuff. I'm like, cool, I got some scalable stuff you can do. But if we're going to look at blood work and we're going to look at stool and we're going to look at urine And we're going to look at all these other things inside of human performance. Now we're looking at it at a doctorate level. And eventually AI is going to be able to help us scale that. AI is great for that. But until we
Mm.
get to that point where we're so confident in a brain being that smart that you can scale that to make it a good burger, it's not the business that has the scale to it. And I know that there are people that do it, but I've seen people that are top Instagram people, and I've had clients go to them and get health and fitness protocols for their medical for their children. And they have gotten zero results on that. In fact, they got worse. And I've looked at those programs with my consultants. It's the same exact copy paste program given to that person for over a year. And you
Mm.
hear this all the time about fitness people just copy paste the same thing.
Mhm.
They say it's custom, nothing's custom. Do doctors do that too? All the time. I'm talking about medical doctors. I'm talking about functional medicine. I'm talking about naturopath doctors. People do this. And so there's a difference between you and I talk a lot about integrity. Like it doesn't align with my values to do it that way. Now,
Yeah.
for some people, it's totally fine. And like they go to bed and they rest their head and they're like, I got a business and I sleep on my bank account and all those things. But for me, for my soul, if we're gonna talk about spirit later, earth soul, ancestral soul, eternal soul doesn't work for me. Right. We can talk about those three souls, if that's something we want to talk about.
Yeah.
That's the
So
answer
so
to that question.
so I want to go back to. It sounds like what you were describing was something like a minimum viable product.
Mhm.
So like creating something that's just easy, it's simple, it's not all crazy, it's not all super hard to fulfill, nice and simple, create a business system. So I think a lot of people are convinced that, as you said, they are business owners, and so now they have some sort of sense of freedom, but most likely they're self-employed, which means they're their own boss, which means they actually don't have any time off, which means they're actually working their asses off, which is not any better. It's actually sometimes worse for people, often worse for people. So how does someone go from self-employed to business owner with business systems? How do they start learning this stuff as you have?
Mm. Well, the minimum viable product is something you have to accept, right? It's like no one goes to Orange Theory Fitness because it has the best workouts on the planet, right? But you go and you get something. They got a minimum product. It's like your wife was part of a kickboxing franchise. It's like
Mhm.
I trained with a kickboxer who owned the world champion title before N Fairtex. So literally, he lost his title to Fairtex, and then no one could beat Fairtex. Now everyone knows Fairtex. It's like he doesn't go in and create a product that is like a franchise product. Everything he does is at such a high level. And if he wanted to scale, then he has to be like, I've got a white belt and I've got a yellow belt, and here's the testing. And if these kids can pass the testing, like the only way you could move up past the rank I was at in Muay Thai kickboxing was you had to go fight someone. And if you fought enough times, then he would let you advance. There's no other way. He's like, you want a red sash? You go fight someone. He's
Mm.
like, "Because how are you gonna say you can demonstrate it unless I see you beat someone in the ring?" You see what I'm
Uh,
saying?
yeah.
And so, like, how scalable is that to have your clients coming on the street? I'm trying to lose 20 pounds. Okay, I wanna feel good about my progression. Awesome. Let's put you in the ring and see how hard you can get hit in the face, right? And so it doesn't scale like that way. And so you just have to be able to willing to say, like, "This is what the product is for. This is the minimum viable product. This is the expectation I have. This is the outcome for this specific kind of person." And then can I make it repeatable? I've tried both. Like I took my son to a kickboxing class. It was Bass Rutten. You know Boss Rutten
Hmm.
in MMA? Okay, I took
Yeah.
him to Boss Rutten's franchise program. I don't know if
Wow.
you ever take
Nice.
your kid to any of those. Okay, cool.
Mm.
It was horrible. It was horrible. And not because Boss made something terrible. It was like it was just simply that the instructor was there wearing his white t-shirt, just like not gonna demo anything and just have the kids start running around and doing all the stuff. No instruction at all. Kids were hitting the bag with no gloves on as part of circuits, just cutting their hands up. And I was
Okay.
like, okay, I understand that there are 20 kids here and this place is making money. Not my value. Like I didn't get into martial arts or sign my child up for martial arts because I wanted an exercise program. A lot of people do that. Like the
Hmm.
art of the martial art is that you instill values and principles inside
Yeah.
yourself. This I learned this from Martin Rooney. I'm a level 2 training for warrior coach under Martin Rooney. We ran the training for warrior franchise out of our gym. Just
Amazing.
amazing,
Amazing program.
amazing coach. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I did the level one. I did the level
Awesome,
one. Yep.
okay. I did
Yep.
level 2 at Parisi Speed School with Martin when he was still there. That
That's
was an
awesome.
amazing experience in New Jersey, man, Newark. And then I got to go to his house and see the letters from Hasbro. He inspired them to make the Transformer movies because they weren't making enough money on toys. And so he actually came in and did a speech to the organization and said, "You're bigger than a toy. You stand for this vision." And he wrote that speech and inspired them to make the movies that saved them, dude. and he had the
That's
letter from the president thanking him for that. I saw it in his house. It's super cool. Had these just amazing, beautiful experiences that I appreciate. But that's something um, that Martin taught me. He was like, you have to teach people the art inside of the martial. People are coming to lift weights and they don't have the art inside them. They don't understand that this is about the other 248 hours a day that they're not in the gym. They think that they're going to
mm,
be here for 2 to 4 hours and that's going to change. And if they do that, it's okay. But he's like, if you change what's going on, which is what you and I both love to do in coaching, change what's going on inside here. So every decision is different, every
yep.
value is aligned. Now you're teaching something that's high ticket.
Yeah, so that leads me right to the thing of then what have you seen in all of your years from through business coaching as well as personal training people are constantly sabotaging themselves. They
Mm.
say that they want the strategy, they say they want the plan, and then you give it to them and then they don't do it. Like what's
Yeah.
up with that?
Let's break this down into 3 areas because it's really interesting. So, I'm a therapist too, right? So, like, healing, people that wanna heal, and I'm talking about from emotional abuse, physical abuse. So, number 1, if you've got any kind of pain in your body, okay, and then I'm also talking about I help women that can't conceive that have miscarriages. I've helped multiple women actually be able to hold their term and have children, okay?
It's
And
crazy.
then I do that through neuroimmune, and I do that through coaching. So, there's multiple aspects that are required. You have to understand the immune system well. Basically, if you have an allergy, you can't have a baby. Okay, that's how it works because your immune system starts to attack the fetus. Think about that. Okay,
Oh gosh, yeah.
okay. And so you have to understand neuroimmune to really help people with that. But when it comes to that kind of healing, that person has to take full responsibility, full ownership. If they have any blame, like I'm this way, or society has made me this way, or society is holding me back, or we're just so.
Mm,
How many healers you talk to that blame the way the world is? The world's too fast paced. Oh, everyone's so disconnected. Oh, everyone's so out of sync. That's a person who can't heal because
mm,
what they're actually saying is, I haven't forgiven the experience that I witness in other people. And so I hold that lack of forgiveness, that sin in my own heart. Okay. And if you know anything about forgiveness prayers, that's super toxic because not only do you carry the sin inside you, but you cast the sin onto them. And
projection.
I could share some interesting things about forgiveness experiences, but I've seen literally clients lose 3 pant sizes by having someone pray forgiveness prayers for them. It's crazy. Overnight, their clothes don't fit. There's so much inside of inflammation. I mean, that was one of the first coaching programs I did was I taught people how to get out of pain by managing their mindset. And instead
Mm,
of having knee pain because they overused their knee, they had knee pain because they had a right knee, which is male. Okay. Male is right, female is left side. Your wife probably knows this from Ayurvedic herbalism, right?
mm,
So they have a right side issue around pain, and it's around their son. And what is it around? Well, my son doesn't call me on Christmas. So what are they really saying is the way that I try to get through life by relying on my son isn't working, and so it causes me pain. And so
jeez.
that's really what they're trying to heal. And just by healing that, her pain went away in her knee. And I'd done so much manual, so much counter strain, so much advanced physical therapy. Her therapist had done so much work with her. Still couldn't get her out of pain. We started talking about her son. We start isolating the problem. I started doing testing around her bioenergy field. Boom, gone. So sabotage is blame. Like, so in that specific instance, that lady was blaming her son for why she was unhappy. She was just like, he doesn't call me. I'm angry at him. He doesn't love me.
Mm,
I'm angry at him. Oh, what am I really mad at? I'm mad at myself because somehow I lost the communication and the connection. Think about what that does as a human being, a spirit inside a body that says, I've messed up this relationship, creates all this pain, all this dysregulation. Your wife talks a lot about nervous system. Yeah, nervous system is really important. The energy that precedes the nervous system is actually the spirit. The spirit's the
mm,
electric conductive
mhm.
life force. So
Agreed.
before it becomes cellular and becomes acetylcholine, it starts off as what? Spiritual energy. That makes
Mm,
sense? Yeah.
yep.
So like if you just track it, then you'll understand like how do I fix any problem in someone? Well, it's going to start off spiritually. And if that electrical chain is dysregulated, it's like one light. Like we'll just talk about it now. Like what's sabotaging people? It's one light. So when you shine a light, the light source is the strongest of the light source, right? Now, if I'm standing back here, like I have a light on me right now, it's like if I'm closer to the light, you can see me better, right? we're all the way back here away from the light. And that is our earth soul. That's this soul that when you came into this planet, you took a breath. That's your earth soul. Now, if I get closer to the light, that's my ancestral soul. That's everything I inherited from my parents. That's every decision I've made in this lifetime. It's all the genes that I have. It's all the energy of the ancestral. Okay. And if I get
Hmm.
right onto the light, I'm at the light source. Now I'm in touch with my eternal soul. And so they call these three different souls, but they're all one soul. Hey, Leo. No, Leo. Go. Thank you. I told him earlier. Sorry about that.
You good?
Yeah. So it's all one soul and it's three wavelengths as they travel. And so if you're like, what is my problem? Why am I blocked? Well, real simple. It's like, do you have blame around your family line and your ancestral soul? Okay. Do you have blame
Mm.
around you as a human being and what you're experiencing in this day and age with your ethnicity and your race and the decisions you made in your life to this point with the people in your life? Do you have blame around your relationship with your creator, your eternal soul? And if you have any of those, you believe something about yourself and you'll never outcreate what you believe to be true about yourself.
Mm.
Simple. And you know that from psychology. So if we come down into the bottom of the field and we play in the grass with people, it's like, oh, I'm playing this psychology game. And it's like, well, what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to get them to believe something that's beneficial for them. If I go up from above the grass and I'm looking down at them, then it's like, oh, how do these people really feel about themselves in the world? And how does their earth soul accept that? And if I get into the stratosphere of the ozone, I'm even higher up. Now I'm like, if I consider everything this person's been through in their genes, in their genetics, let's just say they've got any Native American blood in them and people took something from them that was
Mm.
theirs and they never felt like they reclaimed that and they're bitter. Well, now that ancestral soul is not doing so good. Now we got sabotage inside an ancestral level. We've got feelings around loss and grief and mourning that are locked into the genetics that never got processed. And if we go even higher into the eternal soul and we look at what do they believe about the entire world, the entire universe, what do they believe about God, their creator, what do they believe about all higher energies that are gods? If any of that is impure and manifests inside them, what makes it really hard to play in the grass.
Mm. That's crazy. So how do you feel like you really get people to come to terms with some of this stuff? Because that, I mean, to get they think they know the answer, perhaps, right? And you can't just ask them, "Are you blaming this? Are you blaming
You
that?"
can't ask them.
And so yeah, so
Yeah, you can't ask them. Yeah. So you ask them. So this is an example. Let's say we'll just create a scenario. You want to do a little role playing?
yeah,
Okay, cool. So just come up with like a common scenario where a client's coming to you because you work with a lot of different people and they're stagnated in their business. Just bring me a problem and we'll just
yeah. So I'm
workshop
just
it.
really struggling. I don't know, who to trust right now, and I'm trying to get help, but I kind of want to do everything myself, because I feel
Yeah.
like that's just works best for me, and I just know that I can't, so I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah, that sounds really difficult. How's it feel to do everything yourself? Is that working?
Not really. It's very, very overwhelming.
That's cool. So it's overwhelming. So do you want a life of overwhelm?
I can't say I do. No, no.
I don't think you do because you're here right now, right? So let me ask you this. You just learn things. And so like what you're learned right now, what you're doing in overwhelm, that's not you. So tell me, it's like you grew up, who in your life? Mom, dad, parent, guardian. Did everything themselves because they couldn't let go and they were afraid.
Hmm.
Who was it?
Dad. Yeah.
Dad. Okay, cool. So your dad's running your life right now from your ancestral line. So do you
Hmm.
want your dad to determine your life outcomes?
No, definitely not.
No. Okay, cool.
Definitely
So that's how fast we do it.
not. Jeez.
Okay, so that's how I do it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like they bring me something and I acknowledge like if we systemize it, because we're talking about systems. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is the system that I have. Okay. Now you got to dance in the system because human beings are not fixed. Right. So if I build a specific system for an outcome, I have an expectation. Okay. So like if I say we're gonna make a bunch of pizzas, you better have a bunch of ingredients and a bunch of specific ovens to follow the system.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings are not fixed like that. Does that make sense? So you got to
Yep.
build the world's most complex systems that are invisible because you don't know the expectation of what's going to show up in front of you. but psychiatrists know this all the time because you got someone who was raped is very different than someone who's drug abused, someone who was left, someone who was cheated on. You see, the expectation is completely different. Okay.
Mm.
But if we follow it the same way, it's like this. One, they have to acknowledge that they have a problem they want to change. You know this. So it was like, you told me the problem. I try to do everything myself. Cool. Well, is that serving you? Now, if I say, is that serving you to most people, they'll be like, I have no idea what that means. Or why do you say that? So I don't say that. Instead, I would just said, like, oh, it's like, do you want to do that? Is that how you want it to play out? Right. So I don't want to use a word that distracts their mind from the simplicity of the NLP that I'm using. If you want to talk
Mm.
about NLP. Okay. So
Mhm.
that's really important because a lot of coaches take coaching courses and they go, we're just here to see what's serving you. I'm like, as soon as you say that word serving you, people have so much shit around service. I don't know if you knew
Mhm.
that. Now, I was a busser and it was one of the best jobs I ever had. I was a Mongolian grill chef. I loved serving. But a lot of people do not like the word servant. Oh, they hate it. Me, I love the idea of being a high servant. It's like the
Mhm.
high servant of the high house gets to wear the best clothes. And they do it because they represent the house. And the house is the highest level of service. And so when you wear something like this, it's not for you. It's because you're reminding the person in front of you that you are serving them at a high level and they are worthy of receiving service of someone that is in a tuxedo. Does that make sense?
Mm.
And so,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
servant mentality is a whole mindset, but a lot of people don't understand that, so you lose them with the languaging. So I pick every word very specifically. So once that person is like, "No, that's not the outcome I want," then they have to understand that they're borrowing that from a different spirit. Their earth spirit right now is
Mm.
saying, "I don't like the effing way this is playing out. That's why I'm paying money to try not to be here. That's why I'm spending time, energy. I'm spending my life source right now as an earth spirit to figure this out." You see that?
Mm.
Whether it's overweight, whether it's business, whether it's anything. And then the second thing they say is, "But I don't understand how spirituality works. And so I'm going to try to figure it out with my same way I've been figuring it out." So then simply I just go, "Oh, well, do you want to look at this?" Okay, great. So let me just introduce an idea here that you got some borrowed energy. That's it. You borrowed it from up the stream, up the wavelength.
Mm.
Okay, cool. So now you borrowed it from who? Ancestral. Who was it? It was my dad. Oh, cool. So you borrowed that from your dad. Awesome. So now, do you want to keep living in that wavelength? Or do you want to move a little bit so that wavelength passes you and you can look at your eternal soul and you can say, that's actually what I want to receive, prosperity and abundance. And then I
Mm.
will give you a very practical way to do that if we're in that conversation. Cool.
Jeez.
Hopefully you like that.
That- No, I do, and like, and in personal story, and I'm sorry, Sam, but I'm gonna say is like, so I did an NLP course. I did a week
Mhm.
long NLP course in Vegas, and when I came back, I did some practice with Sam, and there's a specific technique. It was releasing negative emotions, and
Mm.
we went through, and I don't remember the exact word. The order matters very much so, but it was like releasing fear, releasing anger, releasing guilt, and within 3 weeks, I don't want to exaggerate. Let's say 3 to 4 weeks, 5 weeks, maybe she lost 30 pounds. Like it
Mhm.
was just
Yeah.
like, what in the hell? And
Yes.
she and it was so weird because we went through and it was like there was no specific, like if you go back and try to figure out where it's coming from and you're doing like visualizations and stuff, it was like this blob in the middle of nowhere, but it meant so much. It was like attached to so much, and it was like, and all of a sudden, like we moved past this, we learned from it,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, it's like, what the fuck was that? I don't even know. And then it's like whatever that was, it was attached. It was the very
It's
powerful energy that was going on, and
healing.
it was holding her down, and she was gaining weight
Yeah.
and all those things. And now all of a sudden, it's like get rid of it, and I'm like, what? I've loved NLP ever since. So I haven't used enough of it in coaching people 101, but I have been trying really hard to figure out how to take these concepts and make them more practical for people to learn from because it is literally life changing.
Yeah, when healing, that blob is called the still point. STILL. It's still. It's like you
Mm.
hit this mucus and nothing happens. And if you're measuring bioenergy, you can measure exactly when it happens. Like I know when it happens with something. But for a lot of people, they're just like, for some reason, it was just like murky, and then all of a sudden it dropped away and there was a transformation. That's called the
Hmm.
still point. So when I manipulate tissues, I actually hold things until it's still. And then I'll feel the transformation happen underneath my hands. And then when I let it go, the body changes shape. And so the same healing concept happens when you're doing somatic therapy like NLP. It happens
Mm.
when you do coaching with someone. It happens when you put your hands on tissues. All healing is actually the same. That's why it's like it's really funny because we're like, oh, Isaac does sales and mindset, and he owns a gym, and he's a therapist. So it's like, why does he do these specific things? People think they're different. They're not different. They're the same exact thing. Now, the avatar is different because if the avatar is coming because they want to have kids, it's different than the avatar that's coming because their back's so bad they can't work in their business. And that's different than the
Mm.
avatar that wants to lose 100 pounds. And that's different than the avatar that's trying to build a business at the next level by not just working harder. They want to move beyond effort. They all have to heal something, though. So all healing is the same. And so sales is actually healing. I don't know if you knew that. Like they say, sales is the first coaching conversation you ever have with a client. It's also healing because if they're going to leave something of lower in their past to say, yes, I'm going to work with you, then they are going to heal. And the only way they
Mm.
can make the decision to heal is to actually say, I'm willing to let that go. I'm willing to take a leap of faith into the next level of my evolution in the soul that I want to live in. And then that then says, yes, I'm ready to move forward. And then they give you a piece of faith, which is a down payment. Think about it. What is
Yep.
that? That is bringing something to the altar. That's all that is. And like, how many people like, well, I'm not going to give you a down payment, but I'm a yes. How well does that work? Well, that's because that person's basically saying, I want the transformation, but I have no faith, not willing to bring
Mhm.
anything to the altar. So you have to bring something to the altar. And it's just so simple. So, like, a lot of people don't realize, like, all sales is actually healing. And so, whether I'm working with anybody, we're always selling an idea like of someone's best interest. Like, I think this is in your best interest. What do you think? Right? Is it or is it not? You got to tell me because it's your life. And
Yeah.
then they say, yeah, it is. It is in my best interest. I don't want to be overwhelmed. Okay, cool. Well, then we can work with that. And then we can just, you tell me where it came from. And then people know, oh, it was my dad. Okay, cool. And then what did he teach you by watching? He taught me that I had to do everything myself because other people were going to mess it up and that if I let go for a bit, calamity is going to happen. Okay, cool. So, like, do you think what you believe comes true? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yep.
So then, if you want that to be the reality, it will be, or we can do some things and it can be different. It's really up to you. So cool. I could talk about that all day, man. I love doing that.
So how would you say that you'd handle somebody who you know that they need a healing, that they need to embrace what it is that you can offer, that you can help, that they're dealing with some sort of pain or suffering, but there's just a lot of resistance there. Like, do you feel like you
Oh,
go into the
great.
resistance, or do you feel like you kind of let people wait until they're more, at a ready
I love
place?
that question, Todd. That is like the most insightful question. So if you look at behavior styles like disc, right? You have a high
Mm-hmm.
D, like a dominant. Okay, so this is the
Mm-hmm.
only time someone's a high D, they need you to call them on their shit. Okay, that's super important because they are the most alpha thing in the universe. They are afraid of everything in their life. They've made themselves to be super alpha. And if you're not more alpha than them, they cannot hear you because they need a
Mm-hmm.
bigger primate to come in and say, I'm the bee's effing knees, and you are not the bee's effing knees. And if you want to be the bee's effing knees, you got to stop doing the little shit you're doing and do the big shit. And then people are like, oh my God, I've been waiting my whole life to hear that. Why is that? Well, that person's a high D. Okay. Now,
Mm.
if you're not a high D, you're one of the other three types, which is like 80 to 90% of the rest of the world, then no, you don't do that.
Mm.
Instead, here's what you do it's like this. Let's say you're just throw up some resistance, and I'll just do it in real time because that's the easiest way for the viewer to kind of understand. So
Sure.
let's just say you're feeling overwhelmed, but you don't actually want to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So just say some things, kind of like you might see a client that you're like, oh, they're a little resistant.
Yeah, so I just don't know. I'm not sure if I'm ready to move forward yet. I just feel like I need to think about it some more for sure.
Sure, that's cool, man. Yeah, I think you do have to think about it. Let's just sit here and let's just let you feel that, man.
It's tough. I don't know what to
Yeah, well,
know what
that's
to
it.
do.
Well, they have to feel the resistance, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, if I come in there and I push on someone that's pushing, then all we're gonna do is push against each other. But it's like, oh yeah, totally. No, it's like, how long have you been struggling with doing everything yourself? You're like, my whole life. Dude, let's just sit with that. Oh my gosh. Your whole life, dude?
Mm.
And you want like, am I gonna change that for you? Are we gonna do that right now? I don't know. I don't know, bro. We gonna change your whole life right now in 3 seconds. I don't know. Can we just be with you, man, and how frustrating this is? Let's just sit here, man, as long as it takes. I just wanna be here with you. I just wanna witness your frustration.
Mm.
And I just close my eyes and I just feel with them. And you know what happens, man? Pretty soon they feel a little bit better. Now there's less resistance, isn't there?
Mm.
How you feeling now? Are you feeling any better? Can I do anything for you, man? No, I'm just tired of it. I feel you, man. Let's just be with your tiredness. See, I'm not trying to change anything. I
Mm.
just want to acknowledge because if you understand dimensions, witnessing is in the, I believe, at the 10th. I have a sheet. I got to download and I created like a dimensional portal chart. And if you understand that, then you realize it's like our job as spirits is not to change other spirits. I don't know if people knew that.
Mm.
They think we're here to change people. It's really funny. No, we're not. We're just here to live our values and then let people with those values come to ours. So, like, one of my values is healing, it's love. I want to love someone until they love themselves. And then one day they just go, dude, you showed me how to love myself. And so it's like you're hurting right now because you have an expectation that you should be big pajamas. And because you're not big pajamas because you're doing everything yourself, you kind of hate yourself a little bit.
Mm.
That's rough, man. And now you feel resistant because you resist yourself when you close your eyes. I don't want to make that any worse for you. I just want to be here with you. Let's just be here with you. And let's just feel that. And
I
when you're
love that.
ready, when you're ready, and if it doesn't change and you're not ready, that's also great too, man. Because you know what's going to happen if I push you? Oh, I'm going to wait for it to buffer.
Very good. What's going to happen if you push me?
Okay, cool. Is it back now? Yeah. If I push you, it's not you, it's me. If you get pulled to it because you want to do it, now it's you. And I'm not here to imprint my soul onto your soul. That
Mm.
would be that would be a cool thing for me to do if I have a huge ego. Okay. But it's not what I'm actually here to do is stamp my soul onto your soul and make your life my life. And I learned that the hard way plenty of times. In
Mm.
fact, plant medicine taught me that because
So
having a
you're
big ego and doing all these different things, it was like, dude, I can heal people. I can do like I can change anyone. Okay, well, let's just ask God the creator. Did he make human beings to come down here and change the other human beings because one human being knew better than the other human beings? Is that really what God, our creator, designed us for? But see, I thought with my ego and my earth soul that I was like, wow, he made me. I've helped people walk again. I've helped people have
mm.
children again. I've helped people see again. He made me in his image to give this healing. So anyone I meet should get this healing. And then the more spirituality that I discovered, the more I realized, no, you know what that is? That's one of the seven principalities, the seven deadly sins. That's pride.
Mm.
Whenever we
Yep.
get prideful, we become sinful. And whenever we become sinful, our soul takes on shadow. And when we take on shadow, then we follow the seven deadly sins. And there's no light under those principalities. So
Mm.
I know that's going into a completely different direction. But if you want to meld mindset and you want to meld coaching and you want to meld performance and you want to meld metabolism and you want to meld spirituality, that's what it looks like. It looks like that in a real conversation.
Yeah. So then with that being said, I know that you have like trainers that work underneath you, and you're talking about psychology, you're talking about healing, you're talking about sales techniques, kind of all being going hand in hand. Is that something that you teach them?
I do. Yeah, I teach them, and I only teach the ones that want to learn it, right? Because like a trainer, if all massage therapists knew was lymphatic massage, they could have a great living doing lymphatic massage for people that need lymphatic massage. If a personal trainer only knew bodybuilding, it's like we talk about specificity, like that's so important. It's like there are people that are so good at helping people scale businesses. They're like, you never want to work a day in your life again. That's all I do. I'll help you. I'm an exit coach. How many exit coaches have you met, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's awesome. Now do I want to exit? No, I don't want to exit. Like, I got a friend of mine. He's like, yeah, he's like, I'm selling my franchise for $100 million. And he's like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life. And most people will not sell the business because it's too freaking scary for them to not know. Right. And so
Yep.
that's totally cool. It's like, not everyone needs to exit. Maybe you just enjoy the $50 million a year that you're making and you don't sell it for $100 million. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe
Mhm.
everybody doesn't need to exit. Now coaches, we get paid for performance. We get paid to push people. We get paid to elicit something. So like you go to a bodybuilding coach, I have no choice as a bodybuilding coach to warp all the attachments in your chest until your pecs look striated. And as a result, you're not gonna be able to get your hands behind your back and lift them into shoulder extension. But hey, I have to do that because you paid me. You see what I'm
Yep,
saying?
yep, uh-huh.
It's like dieting. It's like I have to make you weigh every single morsel of food and the hydration so you can show up shredded so that you have a little bit of water between your skin on the day you show up, but you're not too flat. Like I have to do that because that's the role that I'm in. I'm a performance coach. Okay. And I understand that game. I've done that. I'm not here for that. It's like I'm here, like you got something you want to solve and you really want to solve it. You come to me, I give you the practical to do it, but I give you the spiritual and how to do it too. And then I'll do it in a psychological way where you actually want to do it and you realize why you're doing it. And like that's the game that I'm here to play. I'm not here to force you to alpha yourself into some kind of alternative state. And I'm not here to get
Mm,
you to work yourself into something. You know, one of the coolest coaches I had, it was so funny. He was the ab vibrator. Those are his
mhm.
abs on the ab vibrator. That was my last business coach. Okay. So he's just super jacked. And so people would hire him for shows all the time. He's like, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get up there. You're going to look the best in your life, then you're gonna feel like absolute shit, and you're gonna feel like you never look good enough, and you might lose because someone else just thought something political. And he's like, and then you're just gonna hate yourself, and you're gonna have body dysmorphia. And he's like,
Yep.
and if you want to do that, you can pay me, and I'll do it. He's like, and I'm not here to tell you what you should want. I'm just gonna tell you what's gonna happen when you get there. Does that make sense? And I was like, well, thank you for being so honest. I really appreciate that. And I would love, and I also don't need to say that to someone. It's like there are positives to that too. Now, like, are there sacrifices made in every single arena in life? Yes, there is. Like you've heard about the four burner method, I'm sure, right? Where you
Mm.
have oh, okay. There's four burners. And you only have gas for three of the burners. And they are your business, they are your body, they are your family, and they are your friends. Okay.
Oh
You only
gosh.
have gas. You only have gas for three of these to stay on. Okay. And so, like Jeff Bezos, it's like super jacked body, now divorced, whatever, right? It's like, okay, was it the guy from Meta? I'm not great with names.
Mark Zuckerberg.
And Mark Zuckerberg, it's like great with his body, great with his business. Friends and family say he's like a ghost shell, right?
Mm,
Okay. So it's like you only have so much gas for these. There's a sacrifice that's meant to be made. So then it just comes down to business as sport. So if you're playing a sport like soccer, you're going to eat your knees up. There's no way around it. You're kicking, you're twisting, you're running, you're sprinting. Oh, I'm going to wait for the buffer to catch because I think it froze.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're playing a sport like soccer, then you're running, you're sprinting, you're kicking, you're rotating. Well, you're gonna eat your knees up, you're gonna eat your ankles up, those kind of things. That's just part of your sport sacrifice that you have to make. So if somebody comes in and they say, "My business, I'm gonna sacrifice so I can exit for 100 million because that's how I want to roll," that's awesome. You do that.
Mm,
Like I'm not here to tell you what you should need, and then you probably want to find someone who has done that already that can help you do that. I'm not the person for that. I'm not I'm not someone who builds minimum viable product and scales and systemizes. I'm someone who takes an impossible concept to understand and makes it not only possible to understand it, but systemize it.
mm.
Different people.
Yeah, 100%. And so, have you had in your gym months, maybe even months and months in a row, where things are just a struggle, where it didn't seem like it might work out, or was it just kind
Oh, at
of
the beginning?
even smooth?
At the beginning. Oh, no, no, no. Okay, this is great. I'm so glad we're talking about this. So I'm like someone who has incredibly bad anxiety, and so I am an anxious performer. So I'm like, "Oh, I don't like where things are right now, so I'm gonna make a spreadsheet." And then I'm going to make you know what I'm saying, right?
Yep.
It's like I
Mhm.
gotta deal with my anxiety by getting into some kind of performative action. And so at the beginning when I started, no, it was really bad. I like took a $10,000 something loan out from my brother. He did it interest free. He was super generous. That's how I bought horse stall mats and things like that. And then we built like my clients built me a wooden structure, dude, with piping just to hang suspension trainers off of. Like they were so generous. I was so blessed, man. Like people were coming in late at night just working for me because I was giving back to the community, right?
Mm.
I never could have done it without them giving back to me. Okay. And that's something that I acknowledge. And it's really important for me to say as a soul that like people gave to me, which is why I'm here. Luca Hosovar, he mentored me at no cost for a long time until I made enough money, and then I joined his mastermind, the pack. And I'm just
Wow.
eternally grateful to him. Okay. And so like I had so many, same with Tim Bagan. Tim Bagan, Olympic strength coach. I interned for him. He let me intern for him. In exchange, he mentored me. And so like I was given great things from community and culture to get me here. So like, I don't want there to be any mistake about it. It's like I'm not like floating through the air and God's like got his hand on my back and is just carrying me. No,
What?
people gave yeah, I know, right? People gave me love, and people continue to give me love, and people continue to feed me, and people continue to nurture me, and I continue to do my best to give back as someone who has gifts and talents that God has given to. And so, did I have struggles? Yeah, lots of struggles, man. And every struggle is a lesson. So, like, for a while when I was like, "Oh, I have a website, but it's not performing." You know what I learned
Mm,
lesson-wise? SEO. Really important. Like, just because you have a website doesn't mean that you're ranking. And if you're not ranking in the top 3 and you're a local business, you're in trouble, right? And the second thing is, what are the reviews? If I go to the reviews, do the reviews not only do I need good reviews, but I need reviews that my client would actually want to read, my potential client, right? Do I have
mm.
pictures? Like we can just keep going down, but it's like I had to learn all these things. Like one of the things that we did as an SEO thing is we wrote all these articles about personal training for certifications. And like so Google now sees us as an authoritative website. I don't know if we're buffering.
Nice.
Okay, cool. Um, but that doesn't mean that people that visit are local people wanting to hire a personal trainer. It means we're getting a ton of traffic, but it's not the specific traffic. However, because that traffic is supporting the site overall, the buoyancy of the site is in the top 3 and will stay in the top 3. But it doesn't mean that because I got 1,000 visitors, that 1,000, like I get visitors from Denmark reading my site, people wanting to be personal trainers. You see what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
not a client that I'm necessarily wanting to get. I'm looking for a Tacoma resident who's interested in pain management and fat loss. That's completely different than someone in Denmark who thinks, I would love to be a personal trainer because I'm tired of working at this bakery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, these are real examples of people. So you just have to learn the lesson. And so one of the most valuable things when I hired the mindset coach that I worked with, that I ran his program, is I had so much anxiety, man. I think I was 29 when I hired him. He was $60,000 a year, $5,000 a month. Didn't have the money to
Jeez.
hire him. I worked with him for 5 years, by the way. So that just tells you how much money I spent.
Jeez.
And I made every penny back. So don't worry. And if you invest $60,000 with the right coach, you'll make every penny back too, or you'll get something even more invaluable, which is spiritual ascension, which, that
Mm,
just saves you a ton of time having to discover. Like, you know, we talked about this the other day. It's like I would rather discover a lesson at 37 than wait till I'm 67 and discover the same lesson because now I
yeah.
don't get as many years to actualize that lesson. Oof, not a good thing for me, anyway. But some people, they're just not ready for it, so they'll never get the lesson, right?
Yeah.
But I hired him, and a lot of what I brought to him was my rage, was my anger, was my frustration about the instability of being an entrepreneur. See, I didn't
Mm.
realize that I'd signed up to be an entrepreneur. And so when shit got wavy, I took a nosedive. Boom. I got
Wow.
into negative thinking. Boom, right? And then the next thing would undulate, would happen. I'd get out of it, and then I'd be on a high. And so I just rode this high and this low and this high and this low, and that wasn't good for anyone. Sure wasn't good for me. And I just learned like, oh, you know what? Just as long as you're high, you will be low because it's a pendulum.
Mm,
And so you got to learn to love and embrace the low, just like the high. And it doesn't mean that you're positive about the low. You can still be like, man, it really sucks that I'm in this situation and I would love to have this. But like, that's a whole skill set that entrepreneurs have to learn. And like, if you're an entrepreneur and you only can embrace the high, you are going to not only be manic, but you're also going to totally blow yourself out because you have no realistic grounding because you can't be in the low and learn the lessons. Think about how bad
mm,
that is. And so then instead of taking one loss, you stack your business completely based on losses. Oof. And then there's no integrity or structure. All integrity means the structure. So you don't have a structure that would hold itself, right? And then that doesn't work either. So, you know, that's actually one of the reasons why, like everything that I've sold high ticket in, I actually will stay with the teacher until the teacher releases me. That's just the thing I do. Okay. So, like, my mindset coach, I was the head in his program, and he was like, I have nothing left to teach you. So he released me. my classical guitar teacher, same thing. I played until I went to an adjudication. I said, "Here's how I thought I performed." He was like, "I didn't think you performed like that at all." Papers came back the weekend. He literally said, "We don't have a lesson today. You were right. I was wrong, and you were more musical than me, and so I have nothing left to teach you. So there's no more lessons. You got to go
Jeez.
train with a concert artist if you want to be a classical guitar." So I train with the teacher until they tell me that they have expired, or I just don't have the clients right now to bring to get the new lessons. That's just how I like to work. Um, but I'm also someone who, like, I'm an artist. I'm an artist who can build systems and understands minimum viable products and has systems. But like I'm a soul and I'm gonna live this lifetime this way, and I don't want it to be commoditized. I want it to be something very special.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. So, what do you think it was more of a perspective shift that this gentleman shared with you that allowed you to just accept things, or was it more like you knew that things are going to be hard, and so you utilized certain tools, certain things to get through the hard times?
Mm, that's so great, man. Very insightful psychological question. I appreciate it. So it was both. It was one, he had to explain the concept and the model of the dip. And then I had to live it as an experience until when the dip happened, I didn't get emotional about it anymore because I knew I was going to come out of the dip, and I just learned to look for the lessons. And then I built something that in psychology we call confidence. I built confidence in myself that I was able to navigate dips and that things were going to be okay because I didn't grow up in a very positive environment, right? And so when I hit a dip, it was like world ending because my parents would make the world end. So I thought as an entrepreneur that, like, oh, every time something happened, world was going to end, even though it had never ended. Makes sense. So I had to
Mm,
build a whole new level of confidence in myself. And so, one, I needed someone to explain the model. Two, I needed someone to hold the space and witness me being an anxious freak out, which is really important. That's why I said he didn't push me to improve. He stood there in the space and loved me through the experience that I needed to have. See the difference?
wow. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
he helped me metabolize what I was going through because when we perform, when we do any exercise, when we do anything where we're pushing ourselves, we're going into a direction like we're doing a curl, but all the stuff happening in the tissues and the cells and all the things happening to the neurological system, we have to metabolize that. And then later on, we're like, oh, that was so hard. My arm hurts so bad. I couldn't lift my son. Da da da. It's like I tore my fucking pec. And then it's like you have to be with that because if you never do, the body doesn't heal. Does that make sense? And so
Yeah.
all the anxiety and all the stuff I'd had from starting a business at 17 and growing up with all the trauma that I did, like I needed someone to help hold space to allow me to metabolize that a little bit. Okay. And that's why I
Mm,
worked with him for half a decade. Okay. Because I
jeez.
just had a lot of stuff to metabolize. And it's not like in my first, week of working with him, I sold my first 6 month, $18,000 paid in full program for fitness. And then I just kept selling them. It doesn't mean that I didn't have some bad dips. It doesn't mean I didn't have times where my bank account was low. It doesn't mean I didn't need grace. Okay. What it means is that if you look at my total revenue since I hired him, is I'm way, way, way up. I haven't paid him in, let's see, I worked on 29, 33, 34. I haven't paid him $60,000 in like 3 years, and I made, half a million bucks last year, whatever. You see what I'm saying? So it's like I'm up.
Yeah.
We have to
Jeez.
look at it. We have to look at it like that. And even if I was paying him 60K a year now, it'd still be up. Um, there's just lessons that we have to learn, and we have to metabolize a lot of this. And so that's something that I actually didn't understand, Todd. As a performance coach, I thought we could just keep pushing and we could kind of be there for someone, and that was enough. I didn't understand until I started working with my psychiatrist, who's a really fantastic doctor, that when you push someone, they still go through all those experiences and they have to metabolize it. And there's a really specific process for metabolizing that as a human being. Did not know that. So I thought you could just talk about your feelings. And as long as you had someone that would let you talk about your feelings, you could keep pushing yourself.
Hmm.
I didn't realize that there's actually a whole metabolism process to being a human being going through any experience. And that was a shocker for me, man. And that's something that, I appreciate being able to share with you on this podcast because, so many people listening to this are probably thinking about performance and they don't realize what can happen. Like I've been performing since I was 17, I'm 37, 20 years of high performance. How do you metabolize that? Like a lot of people
Yeah.
don't know that that even exists. I didn't know it existed until I started working with this doctor.
Jeez. So I have to ask, and this may be a harder question, but like when you're in a dip and there's a confidence there, at what point do how do you know that you're going to come out of the dip? What signs do you have? How do you maintain a sense of almost feeling delusional at times, where it's like,
Yeah.
fuck, is am I actually coming out of this dip? Like, what did you do? Like, what was the? I know it's similar process, but I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. I give you a couple dips. So, like, the first dip I hit in the fitness business was that guy texted me and said, "Oh, you can't train your clients anymore at my gym," right?
Yep.
So, like, that's a pretty big dip because these clients were paying me monthly, and now I went overnight to having $0. That's a pretty bad dip, and the only way I could earn dollars is if I found another gym to go to. And what I just did was I was like, "Well, that's not gonna work, so I gotta figure out how to mobilize." And I told my network, and you know what my network did is they rallied around me, and my parents actually found a place that I could rent. Now, it was not ideal. It was like half junk space, half you were there,
Yep. I
half
remember.
gym space, right? Okay, cool. So, like, they found that, and they were just like, "Hey, you can rent this for $1,200 a month. The guy will lend it to you on a month to month." And I was just like, I wasn't paying 1,200 a month before,
Oh
so
man.
I wasn't planning on that, but I was like, 1,200 bucks minus something is better than nothing,
Mhm.
right? And then I also told myself, like, if I had to go work as a waiter in the evenings just to make enough money to cover the rent, I was willing to do that. And so, like, there was a willingness to move forward, and I looked at what was brought to me. At that point, that was brought to me. Now, I could have said, "Nah, that feels too risky. Now, what if I pay 1,200 bucks and I lose clients and I
Mhm.
have to work at the restaurant?" I didn't say any of that. And the reason why is I had a vision and I had a dream. Now, where it gets harder a lot of times is our visions and our dreams get bigger, and we become less in the clouds, you could say, about our vision and our dream, and more grounded in our past experiences. And so that was difficult for me to go from being a trainer to a life coach, and to go from that was a big jump. And the reason why is I had so much invested in my identity as a personal trainer and a therapist, right? And so then to become a life coach and sell that as high ticket, that was a big suspension. Like right now, one of the things that I'm really focused on is becoming a speaker. Like, and I am a speaker speaking right now. So
Mhm.
it's going great, right? That was an intention I set. And then you reached out to me. And so now I'm leaving behind. I'm a life coach and I'm a business coach and I'm a therapist and I'm a business owner of a fitness gym and I have systems and da da da. So like I'm a speaker and I'm a writer and I have a book about spirituality and I have a book about your neurological system in spirituality. Right. Like, and I'm going to make that next jump. And if I look back at my history, I'm like, well, what has it taken for me to make the jumps? Is one, I got to find a mentor. Two, I got to look at what's showing up for me. And then I have to say yes to it. And I have to walk in faith. And there's this beautiful acronym my teacher taught me. Faith is for allowing in the how.
Mm.
Faith or allowing in the how. And so basically, once I say I want something, I have to allow in the how. If I resist any of that, if I block it, then I'm not going to get it.
Mm.
That's simple because we block energy and energy is circuitry, right? And so if I release an energy, I want to be a speaker. Boom. Todd says, "Hey, I want you to speak on my podcast." Stop. Nope, I'm not ready for that. See how it just stopped?
Yeah.
I want to be an entrepreneur. Okay, cool. You just lost your job. Oh no, I need another job. Boom, you just stopped it. See how that works?
Yep. Wow.
And it's like clockwork. It's cause and effect because if you understand the universal laws, which are inside of beyond effort are universal laws. If you understand the universal laws, then you understand how all this works inside of the dimensions. So you just don't want to mess it up by accident because laws are like gravity. And so you don't have to know gravity exists to suffer from falling off of a building or a
Mhm.
cliff. And so that's how the laws are. And we can talk about the laws all day, but
So I'm curious on the opposite end of the spectrum. Then, moving away from failure, and let's say that you have these amazing sales skills. You have all these huge vision, lots and lots of skills, lots of certifications. How do you stop yourself from scaling too big, or how do you stop yourself from feeling good about where you're at when you could scale super big?
that's a great question. So I think people just need to sit with themselves and have a real conversation with themselves without other voices, like their parents' voice,
Mm.
like, you know, the love they didn't get in their life that says, if you do this, you're going to be good enough. I'll tell you a real interesting experience with one of my friends who did ketamine and LSD. And I don't know if you ever heard about that process where they set those drips up. And he grew up in an experience where his face, he had a really rare disease where his face didn't form correctly. The sutures of his bones were too soft and his face actually melted.
Oh, what?
Okay, and so his whole life, he walked around and kids just tortured him, and he just was like, "I've gotta prove, I gotta be the smartest, I gotta do everything," and when he did ketamine and LSD, he actually saw a vision of himself being bullied by these kids that he hated that just made his life hell, and when he observed that, he finally had this feeling like, "Why am I letting these kids make me feel like shit about myself?" And he went, "Actually, the gift is they pushed me to be the fastest runner, to work the hardest, and now I have all this business success." And so instead of wearing that like in his life as a burden, he wore it as a gratitude.
Mm,
And it took him medicine to do it. Okay. And I'm not saying everyone needs medicine, but the answer is inside of you. And he would not be as successful as he is if he was carrying his life like a chip on his shoulder. And even if he did become successful, well, what would his body do? It would manifest some kind of illness like a cancer because he's got resistance inside him. Right.
mm,
Okay, and so, like, what someone can do is just very simply just go sit with themselves and what do I, as an earth soul, without the burden of my ancestral soul, my earth soul and my eternal soul, what am I here to learn in this lifetime? What am I really drawn to? And for some people, it may not really be about the money. Like for me, it's not really about the money. Like I didn't get into personal training to make a bunch of money. Now, it was nice that I did make a bunch of money,
yeah.
and I'm very grateful that I made a bunch of money, but I carry my money very simply. It's like I got the gifts that I got for being a servant of other people, and I represent that as a servant. And so I take my money and I spend it on teachers, and I invest into people I believe in,
Mm,
and I learn these things so I can serve at the next level. I just keep doing that over and over again. And pretty much the universe is like, listen, Isaac, you don't need to make a lot of money. It's pretty simple. I just need you to teach what you were able to learn as a system because the teachers that you learned it from, they couldn't systemize it. And so it's too complex for people to learn.
mm.
But I gave you the gift of systems and I gave you all the money so you could hire all the teachers and then give you all the case studies. And so I just need you to pass that on to other healers. Pretty simple, right?
Mm,
Okay, cool. And can I live off of a couple $100,000 a year? Absolutely, I can. Need more than that. Now, is the universe giving me more than that? Absolutely. The universe is giving I got some incredible things, gifts from clients. One gave me a timeshare to Hawaii 2 weeks a year, gave me the whole deed.
wow,
I get to go to Hawaii 2 weeks every year at the Hilton. Okay? I got that as a gift, and just
that's
as a
awesome.
gift for the rest of my life. I give that to my children. Okay, so like I'm always going to be in Hawaii every single year for 2 weeks.
Heck
Or I can
yeah.
go a week at a time and I can take a family, right? And it's like, so I got a lot of things that I didn't need, and I got them for being of service. And that is sales, that is healing, that is just being of love. And that's, to me, that's what spirituality is all about.
Mm. So you mentioned ketamine and LSD, and so now obviously this is a great point to ask you. You know, you've had some experiences with plant medicine itself. You know, before and after, what would you say? What would you say? First of all, I guess what have you done? You don't have to list everything, but the one that you've had the most impactful time with, and what has it really shown you? What has it really taught you?
Do you know what it feels like to really be in touch with your heart? That's what MDMA could teach. And then, do you know how to live your life in a way where you're connected to that heart? Cool. That's MDMA. If you approach it that way. And if I've had lots of people that have used it in party environments, like friends of mine, and they didn't get that experience at all. But I'm very intentional
Mm,
about my experiences. Psilocybin, let's say. Okay. It's like I want to talk to God. Now, this is really important. This is why I want to share here. Is if you do any altered states, expanded states, ayahuasca, whatever, and you go in with an intention, I recommend if you do want to have a conversation with God, you say, I want to talk to God, my creator. Don't say God because there are a million and one gods. Okay. So you will get a low
sure.
energy form. And that's what happened to me is I said I want to talk to God. And I got all the principalities pretending they were God. And only by the
Mm,
grace of God, my creator, am I even here right now. And I learned, unfortunately or fortunately, I have certain gifts. And so I can channel. And so that means that if I want to, I can pull a spear right through me and I can start channeling any of the principalities, any rage, any god, any druid, whatever. which brings up a really powerful point. I don't channel and cannot channel God the creator because God the creator is so massive, he cannot fit himself into a human shell. Does that make sense? Okay.
Mm,
So like if you were like, could you talk to I could have a conversation with God, your creator for you, and I could tell you what he's saying. I can't channel him through. Okay. But I can channel like other forms through. And I learned that on psilocybin. Um, and my shaman has never seen anyone else do that. So I'm not saying you're gonna do psilocybin and that's gonna happen for you. In fact, you've never seen it happen. So everyone gets different things depending on, and I can tell you why I think that is like if you look at a disc trimetric in my score, I have a perfect 0 in 2 areas. They are in methods and preference. So I don't really care what the method is, and I don't have a preference to an outcome most of the time.
mm,
So I'm a totally neutral container for something like a channel. And you could look at some of these tests and you could equate some practicalities of how someone's going to respond. The same way that you can use a genetic test and figure out how someone's going to process and metabolize a drug, right? You can do it. I mean, I love looking at tests with clients. I love looking at DISC. I love looking at trimetrics. I like looking at their positive and negative bias. I like looking at all that stuff. Um, but I learned a lot, man. I learned that you can create all the states. In fact, I can get so I can recreate psilocybin at any moment in my body. In fact, it happens too often. So I have a doctor that gives me dopamine reducer. So I don't do it. Because what will happen is then I'll get a little too involved with it, and then I can start bringing in too many different spirits. And these spirits, they will give you powers. The problem is those aren't God's powers. Those are powers of you ever hear what a horde is? Like a demon
mm.
horde? Okay.
No,
So
no, yeah.
okay. So like in the Bible, they talk about hordes, which are packs of demons. Like demons will give people powers and give people with pride powers. Okay. So like when I was channeling, I could put my hands on someone and heal them like instantly. Okay. And it was really weird. I was doing I know what I was doing now, but there's something called primal reflex release technique, PRRT. I was doing a mix of PRRT and Ayurvedic energy points. Each finger actually represents, so this is space, this is earth, this is fire. Each of these Vedic, you can make a ninja mudra. And if you PRRT something while you ninja mudra it and you tap it to move the energy through, you will actually release a tissue boundary through the spiritual realm. So I got
Jeez.
lots of gifts. I got lots of gifts, but they weren't in service to me. They were in service to the horde. That makes sense. So,
Mm.
kind of what I would say here, if we talk about, I got to see all the dimensions. I got to see my family star trees. I got to see lots of things, and it was great. And I thought I was living the dream, but I was living the gifts of the principalities, the dragons of things that have existed here on this planet longer than we've been around. And those principalities, they love giving people with pride powers. So I had to take a big chunk of humble pie. And luckily, I didn't kill myself by getting wrapped up in a horde by being channeled. That's why I'm sharing the story because it's really important that people understand. It's like if you go into the spiritual realm, you light yourself up in the astral plane and you're going to be like a tasty snack. And so I've been doing shamanic work for a very long time, helping people navigate and travel with their soul. When I magnified my ability, I actually created a shamanic crisis for myself.
Jeez. So, so how did you know that any of the stuff you just said? So how did you know that you were channeling principalities and some sort of
I didn't.
hordes
It was
as opposed
admin.
to
Yeah.
the truth that you could be?
So they can't say that they are God the creator. So if you ask them, like, who is that voice? They could say, I'm God. But if you say, are you God, my creator? They can't lie to you.
Mm.
If if you say, are you Jesus Christ? They cannot lie to you because Jesus will come and just deal some whoop ass on them. Okay. They won't do it because what they can do is they can value bend the heck out of you. They can value bend the heck out of you. They can get you to do, pretty much whatever. And so the easiest way they did it with me is they made me live through the rapture 2 times, where I thought that the world was gonna end and the world leaders needed to come and America was gonna get nuked. And they have the best plot line. There's actually, they even had me cussing all the time because they had me convinced that the F word stand for fully under control and knowing. Isn't that funny? They made acronyms up like this. Dude, I have a story about Mary and Jesus and the Star of David that would blow your mind because they came up with it, and they are so wise. They are so wise. You do not wanna talk to them. And then, dude, my arm would claw like a dragon hand. Principality was just in me. He was just rage. He was just waiting to just scratch someone and eat their soul. I mean, it's crazy, man. Um, so I learned a lot, and that's actually one of the reasons that I am knowing that I'm stepping into speaking is because the universe gave me this experience and it let me come out on the other side.
Hmm.
And I was like, people need to understand because a lot of people are really curious about doing shamanic journeys. They're very curious about doing plant medicine. Um, and they're just not as tapped in, and so, like, the doctor I work with actually has to deal with a lot of people that use altered states and get really effed up, and they don't come out of it good like I do.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't even say I'm coming out of it like, to me, it's not good, but he's like, "Man, for a month, you're doing amazing." But for me, I'm, like, not where I used to be because, like, I could usually have 8 teachers at any given time, and I could have the screen up, I could have a Google Sheet building a system, and I could have notes, and I could do all 3 at the same time while the teacher's talking, and I can type verbatim. And so, like, my intellect usually is super high. When you get into the spirit realm, you don't use that intellect. So, like, the other day, I was walking with my wife, and I was like, "We should go right instead of straight." I can just tell there's something going on. And she's like, "Well, straight's faster." I was like, "Fine, we'll go straight," because I'm not attached to anything. As soon as we walk down the street, all of a sudden the garbage truck comes rolling by us, pulls right up in front of us, and we realize if we walk down the street the whole time, we're gonna be behind the garbage truck. Yeah. Cool, cover. Right? It's like I was like, "Well, that's why the spirits told me to walk." And so then we had to turn around and walk back the other way
Oh my
because the
gosh.
whole half mile would have been right behind the garbage truck. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
so, anyway, just all sorts of things you can learn.
So how? Okay, so I'm going to ask you this, and because this is what I love to do, and I feel like because of all the things you've studied, you can answer this. How do you ground this in some sort of sense of reality? So for me, and I'll give you an example. For me, I believe in channeling. I believe in the fact that we have certain frequencies that our brain taps into, and there are certain frequencies that exist that can channel a message just like a radio frequency can, right? So knowing how the body's energy and million certifications you have, like how do you take something like that someone would say like what the heck are you talking about and that doesn't make any sense and put some legs on it?
Pretty easy. They have to understand bioenergy first. So I'm certified in something licensed. Dr. Renee Kayashin trained me before. I'm certified before he passed away, but he was a Boeing engineer, okay, who had a really bad extremity problem. I believe it was his knee. And he saw all the doctors in the West Coast in America couldn't fix him. And he was in China working for Boeing and he got an acupuncture session. All of a sudden, his knee pain went away. And he went,
What?
"That's really weird. Why did that work?" And so he was a doctorate in engineering. He goes back and he studies Ayurvedic medicine, becomes a doctor in Ayurvedic medicine. He combines engineering and Ayurvedic medicine and he
Wow.
bridges the gap and he calls it Akmos. So I studied with Dr. Nikayashin's team in France for 2 weeks. It was like a super big intensive. I have the whole release here. I don't have the letter. Actually, have it. I show it to you a different time. I don't know if your audience wants to see it. If they want to see it, I'll do a thing with it. But anyway,
Yeah.
it measures bioenergy signals. Okay, so it's called a Lecker antenna. You can look it up, and it's like a dowsing rod on steroids. Because the dowsing rod, if you've ever used one in Sedona, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool, I did a whole tour in Sedona. What it does is it just drops when the energy changes, right? So you can create different measurement systems, and so this Lecker antenna can measure different wavelengths. 17.6 is the highest wavelength that it can measure. And at 17.6, that means that something is good for the body. It's like pretty high resonance. However, any strong spirit, anything that is of a higher plane is above 17.6. That makes sense? And so all these higher energies that interact with us, they live above the frequency of 17.6. You can take
Will
any
you
food.
will you go back to when you first talked about 17.6? I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah, yeah. 17.6 is the highest that that antenna can measure to. Okay, so it measure but there are higher frequencies. In the same way that we can take a tuning fork and we can play a higher frequency. And a dog can hear the tuning fork, but we can't hear the tuning fork.
Hmm.
Make sense?
Hmm.
Okay, so the frequencies that are higher that someone can hear, you would have to hold a high vibration to be able to hear that vibration. Same way a dog would. So people that train themselves to channel, or for some reason can channel, they can just hold for some reason a high vibration in their mind, and they can hear that signal, and then they can let it pass through them, like through their mouth, whatever.
Mm.
That's all that's happening. And so I can get the antenna out, and I can measure your food, and I can tell you if that food is going to be good for you or not. I can measure your medication. I could do your dosage. I could do all that in the same way that people do muscle testing. They're just using this as the feedback system. I use an antenna because it's a little bit more scientific. Okay. And like this, I cannot adjust the number on, but with the electro antenna, I can slide it up to 17.6. I can use it for different effects, but that's all that's happening. It's like, oh yeah, you're a container. Can you hear it? Can you not hear it? It's going to be based off your resonance. And then that's going to mix with your biology, right? And that's going to mix with your nervous system. So I got a lot of bad stuff I picked up in my nervous system when I was channeling. And then I had to do a bunch of somatic healing, like, years every night just to get that stuff out of my system.
Yeah, like what? What's like go into somatic healing?
Okay. So in the somatic healing model or system, okay, that I use, if we want to just fast forward it through, it was actually given to me by a teacher that was given to it when he lost everything and then basically was told he needed to balance his karma by using this gift. And then he basically healed a lot of the Bay Area with it. And then he was allowed to charge money for it. So it was like a divine gift given to him. So that's the version that I use. So his name is Daniel. So this is Daniel's IP given by Spirit. This is not mine. And so the first thing that you do is you need to start communicating with the body. So a lot of people don't know what it feels like in their nervous system to get a signal from the nervous system. If that makes sense. So you need an indicator. Okay. And so the first thing you do is you just say, make a request that your soul or your spirit would give you a sign. And then you just wait 3 seconds. No expectation. Don't try to perform. And then something happens. Maybe. Okay. So then you need to get a calibrator first, but you don't want to perform for it. That's really important. Because if you start performing spirituality, it's not a good thing. So this is not energy work, by the way. This is somatic, just to be clear, because you asked for somatic.
Yep.
Energy work is completely different ball. Energy work is all intention. You're like moving things. Okay, this is somatic work. Somatic work shouldn't have energy component to it. If you're mixing somatic and energy, you're doing something different. Don't call it somatic if you're doing it that way. Okay. Because once you start mixing your energy, you have an intention for the person that you're working with. So if I say, Todd, just take a second, close your eyes, and just say, hi, spirit. Give me a sign. If you will, I'll just wait. Cool. Did you get one? Awesome. Maybe it was the little left. Awesome. Cool. Now, if I said the same thing, Todd, we're going to build a channel with your spirit. Now I'm going to sit here and I'm going to hold the energy around you. You can even feel me do it right now. And then I want your spirit to push back, and that'll be our sign. See, like that is a completely different process, right? If we're mixing energies, we don't need to do all that, right? But so I'm going to give you, how much time do we got?
Plenty.
A free wedding. Plenty. Okay. We got plenty of time. With the spirit, once we have a relationship with our spirit, we want to ask them, okay, where we're holding. And then I would actually look for certain limiting things that people have in their life. Okay. So an example is withheld shame. They have shame in an area that they haven't let go of. Okay. So then I do a whole healing around that, where I take them back into the timeline of their spirit and their earth soul. And I figure out, okay, we just real simply, it's just like, okay, cool. Where do you feel that? What's the color? What's the emotion? We use different entryways for different people. And then what we do from there is we are able to identify what that person needs. And then we witness them. Okay. We just witness that so we can lead the nervous system. And that is also somatic. Okay. And then there's some other things you can do in prayers you can stack and all sorts of things that Daniel does. That's really great. But that is an example of doing somatic healing, where it's like, I'm going to witness this in my body until it has what it needs and it can transform, which is patience. It takes patience. So an example is sadness. People don't want to feel sadness. People don't want to feel anger. So like, but if you really sit with your sadness, it's not a great feeling, but you sit with your sadness and eventually that sadness changes. Just like when we sat with resistance. So like whatever it is that human beings need to metabolize, we got to just sit with it. And I actually think that is the evolution of performance, is to actually allow people to metabolize what they've been through. Because otherwise you're just building performance on top of dysfunction and dysregulation. And that's not a great point.
Yeah. So then like, how do you how do you not perform during this? Because I'm going to give you a quick story. So,
Yeah.
when I did my NLP certification, I remember that there was these moments where the idea was to connect with our subconscious mind. The idea was to ask a question. It may be similar, maybe not. You'll know what I'm talking about once I start saying it. But the idea was that we're going to ask a question to our subconscious, and it's going to respond. But in reality, the idea is that we're going to ask a question to our subconscious mind
Yeah.
and that it's going to respond. But I found myself trying to consciously respond. I found myself having no response from the subconscious mind that I could hear. At least it's like I'm asking myself a question and I'm noticing myself sitting there thinking about it, like cognitively running it
Uh-huh.
through in my head. And so when you said you don't have to sit there with it, but not perform, how would you talk about that?
Yeah, I would. Did you just ask yourself, is this my conscious or my subconscious?
I can't say I did. I mean, no,
Yeah, that's the easiest
they
thing to do.
they kind of told me just go with whatever comes the fastest, and
Yes.
I'm like, what was first? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, well, maybe that is your conscious mind. So, but if you were in doubt, like maybe it is your subconscious, you'd just be like, "Hey, are you my subconscious or my conscious?" And it might just be like, "I'm your subconscious." Oh, okay, cool. My subconscious is that fast. So it like overrides, right? It's like, "Okay, great. You're my subconscious. Great. Can you lead me through this?" Yeah. Just trust me. See how that works? So a
Hmm.
lot of times people don't ask the clarifying question, and I've learned a lot by channeling, like basically how to have those kind of conversations with either yourself or other spirits or whatever. But it's also the same as it's a kind of little weird because you guys aren't all ACMOS bio certified, but when you use the Lecker antenna, you
Damn
can
it.
really only use it for a yes or a no. Okay, and so a lot of the times when you're talking to the brain, you're trying to channel something, you have to keep it super low limbic. So it's like it's not trying to come up with a lot of big words or anything. It's just like, is this a yes or no? Are you my subconscious mind? Yes. Okay, great. Now, if it said, "No, I'm not." "Okay, can you help me access my subconscious mind?" "Yes." "Okay, cool." Then you have to bring some things in. "Do I need to close my eyes to access you?" "Yes." "Is that enough to access subconscious mind?" "No." "What else do I need to do?" "You need to put earplugs in." "Okay." Now you doled the sound out. "Can my subconscious mind now work from a safety if there's less sound stimulus?" "Ah, yeah." See how that
Mm.
works? Alright. So that's how you can kind of interact with yourself. There's a lot of opportunities to learn yourself much better. Like if I put earplugs in, I hear different voices than if I don't have earplugs.
Mm.
Okay, because you're dampening things. Like think about autistic people that are always wearing the sound cuffs. Why do you think that is? So they can
Hmm.
hear themselves better. If they have to process all the mental stress of everything else coming to the brain through the auditory cortex, that's way too much for them. They can't clarify their own thoughts. And so these are the same things that people can use regardless of if they're autistic or not to be able to get better wavelength into the brain.
I was gonna ask that actually because it's like if they're for the people who don't hear themselves. Yeah, it's like how would you build a practice where you can start hearing yourself? Because I know a lot of people they don't meditate, or they meditate and they do hear only themselves, which is
Mhm.
some crazy mental chatter.
That's crazy, yeah. Like when I meditate, I would have well, how I reconnected with you is I got up in the middle of a dream and it told me to reach out to you. Remember that?
Yeah,
And
I
it's
do.
like I knew that wasn't me because I was like, why would I want to talk to Todd for? The guy the guy had giant gauges in his ears and, was cleaning at LA Fitness, like, 17 years ago. I was like, "Why do I wanna talk to Todd? I
Yep,
don't want
yep.
Todd." And I was like, "But I got the download, right?" And so here's the thing, if I'm breaking someone in easy, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show 'em muscle testing, so they understand that there is a preference that their body has. Make
Mm.
sense? There is, like, an energy, and so I'm gonna break them in with muscle testing.
What's muscle
Then I'm
testing?
gonna
Real quick, give a
oh,
quick little.
testing,
What's
if people
muscle
don't know
testing?
muscle testing, you have a Golgi tendon organ that gives you stability. So if I push here, my deltoid, my lateral deltoid, the polymers, they just slide together like that. Okay. Now, if that signal doesn't come through on the Golgis, then the muscle's weak. So you just test it and then you introduce something in the field, like my name's Todd Smith. Oh, that was really weak. Why? Because the electrical system went, well, yeah, if I'm not Todd Smith,
Mm.
right? And so you can use muscle testing so you understand consciously, I'm Todd Smith. No,
I'm a wealthy person. No. I'm successful at everything I do. No. See that? And so now the subconscious is really showing you if the electrical circuit can work with your muscular system. That's where I'd start someone. Okay. Then once I take them through maybe some meditation, some spiritual work, we're going to start playing with some spirit cards. Okay. And real
Mm.
simple. I have a deck that I love. It was the first one my teachers taught me like 9, 10 years ago. And it's animal spirit cards. Okay, so we do animal spirit cards. They pull an animal spirit card and they start looking for connections and understanding with that. That's a really good, gentle way to start people. There's also self care cards. I like self care cards. It's like start looking for the connections of the synchronicities in your life. That's what you're looking for. And then use some of these tools so you can start to understand. If you do that, you start building a stronger connection to your spirit. If you're in your brain all the time, um, it's gonna be really hard to get there, and so you have to start looking outside of your brain. You have to start looking at how the universe is bringing you things, and that's why I really like the animal cards, because you start seeing animals that you normally don't see, and your brain starts going, "Wait a second," and then you start learning behaviors around animals, and then you start learning that you have similar behaviors to be successful. I mean, it's just really cool. So I love doing all that work.
So with all these things you can teach, I have to ask you, like, what do you enjoy teaching the most?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't enjoy teaching immunology the most, but that's the teacher that I learned from. He's going to be teaching that all the time for me. And I don't enjoy teaching GI systems the most. So what we're talking about right now is what I enjoy teaching the most, man. I love teaching the coaching, like what we did with the role playing. It's like I feel
Mhm.
like I actually don't know anyone who can do that as well as I can. And I don't say that from a place of big headedness. I just haven't met anyone that can do it. And my teacher that I learned from for half a decade, he was the one who kinda created that way of being in coaching, and it was a very special gift that he had, and that's why I studied half a decade with him to learn it, and then he was like, "Yeah, it's like you and me are the only 2 that know that, how to do that." And so for me, I love teaching that because it's like every technique perishes when the person that carries it perishes, and so that is a gift to be able to, and we can talk about it like in from a sales perspective, but really from a coaching perspective. Like I love just being able to like someone gets on a sales call and they're crying by the end of it because you just helped them undo their daddy issues. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? If you
yeah,
can step up these forward, it's like, what is
yeah.
better than that? So like
Hmm.
that's like number one for me. Number two, I do really love the spiritual thing. I had this really strong experience with spirituality living through the rapture. And so like I just want to help people take care of their spirit in a healthy way because I tried a lot of things and I got a lot of booms, I got a lot of gifts, I got a lot of insights, but not necessarily in a healthy way. The same way that someone can start a fitness program and destroy themselves, it's like I'd like to stop people from experiencing that when they go into spirituality. That makes sense.
Mm.
So that for me is the other thing. Those 2 are top of mind for me. It's like sales and coaching and spirituality, protective spirituality, I would call it.
So I heard you mention NLP earlier, then, and I know that that kind of brings everything together as well. So what's your experience with neuro linguistic programming?
Quite simply, man, I read maybe a couple pages of a book a long time ago. I understand the concept, and then that is it. So, like, I can reference NLP, from the understanding that the words are the way that you see the world, but I
Hmm.
don't, like, sit around and be like, "Let me figure out how to NLP something." What I've learned more so is that there are easy words to use with people, and there are easy routes. There's, like, decision trees. So, like, when I talk to people, like, you brought a thing to me, it's like Tony Robbins says this all the time. Like, there are only, like, 5 or 6 primary patterns that,
Hmm.
Tony Robbins, um, one of my mentors for therapy is a good friend of Tony Robbins. And so when he's in the hot tub and he's talking to Tony, Tony will say, like, there's actually only like 6 general patterns that people have. I can just tell like which of the 6 it's going to be. And that's just how I coach people live during the events, right? Because he's like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
which one of the 6 is it? Okay. So same idea. It's like there's only like 4 or 5 things that it could be. And then once we exit that tree, we move to the next tree. And then there's phases. So inside of I have a sales system called Sold, and inside of that Sold sales system, it goes through the different phases that people have to travel through. And then it goes through different questions and it gives the exact questions you could use, permutations of questions, these kind of things. And that's what I was using with my clients, teaching them these kind of things. And I like sales, but I love sales from a coaching perspective. So like if I'm teaching someone how to be a health coach and I'm teaching them how to sell, that is like double frosting for me. I teach sales for the sake of sales. It's still cool because I love sales, but it's not the same as when I teach someone who I know is going to take that sales and focus on it as being a coach and
Yeah.
transformation. That's the best for me.
No, it's huge, and like that was such a powerful thing for you to put together, is for people to understand how sales and personal training and coaching and all these things is taking people through a process of healing, allowing them to make a decision that is ultimately going to change their life. And as Tony Robbins says as well, it's like it usually is from that just one decision. They're like, oh, it took me 10 years to
Yeah,
get to make that decision. It's like, no, it didn't. It really took you one moment. It
one
really took
moment.
you one moment.
One moment, and sometimes you just need the right container for it. Like, you have to be safe, you have to feel the space. It has to be presented in a way where you feel like it's in alignment, right? And that
Mm,
when that happens, it's just like my wife was, sharing, a little earlier about when she wanted to start her business, and she asked me like, "Oh, I just got laid off. Do I start my business now?" And I said, "Well, you just got laid off. It's COVID, so people aren't really hiring. You got a nice severance package. So if you don't start your business now, would you ever really start it?"
yeah, the most cushy conditions.
So then she went and started the business, right? But, like, I didn't tell her, "Go start the business." My question was, "Would you ever really start it if you didn't do it with all these advantages now?" And then she answered the question for herself. She's been successful ever since. But I learned that even coaching your wife, it's like, I don't coach my wife. I just ask her questions about how she's doing, and then she
Mm,
own conclusions. And that's the same thing with a lot of coaching, but some people, they want more. Like in disc, if they're a high C, they want more strategy. Your high C people, they just need a ton of plan. I'm super high C, so I get it. When I talked to my psychiatrist, I was like, I want to see the whole 2 years of what we're going to be doing. If you show me the full 2 years, I'll feel so good about what we do. I won't have any anxiety. But if I show up to every session and we're going to talk about my feelings, I'm not going to like that. You see the
yeah,
difference?
yeah.
And so, like, then he's like, sure, I'll take an hour and I'll show you what I'm writing in my book and everything. And then we'll just basically, you'll know where we're trying to go over your whole life. And I was like, great. We did that the other day. I feel great because I'm high C.
Wow, wow.
Right, so you have to do it for the person in alignment. Yeah.
And so if someone else is trying to take their program and create clarity for people,
Mhm.
create a 2 year plan for people, or just give them the roadmap, what advice do you have for someone going from just one-on-one coaching to
Mhm.
productizing to going one to many?
Yeah. All my advice, I usually try to customize for people in real case scenarios, but, that might be a little lengthy. So the first thing I would wanna understand is, like, who do they love serving the most, right? Not, like, who pays them the most, but, like, who do you love serving the most? Because there's a lot of ways to get paid in life, and so if they're just looking at it from a money perspective, that's not really gonna be the icing. So if we want it to be sweet, let's start with, who do you love working with the most? Then do they meet the minimum viable barrier of being able to pay what you need to survive? Then we can go from there. And then from there, we just look at the model, right? So like I have in front of me, this thing that I showed you,
Yep.
little art piece, and it's flipped, right? But it's okay. Performance. We're talking about evolving performance. So what is an evolution of performance? The idea that people should metabolize things. How about business? People want to perform in business. Well, how's it? Here's a new idea: art versus scale, system versus values. Make sense? Right? So now we're evolving performance. We're getting deeper. Sports and the body. You want to perform there? It's sacrifice, it's specificity, it's metabolizing whatever pain or food you put your body through. How many bodybuilders live off of protein shakes and artificial sweeteners and get bad stuff through their skin because their
Hmm.
GIs all messed? You know this. How many of them take supplements or steroids or TRT or anything, B-ball, and then they end up getting beet red and have cardiac issues, or their skin, they get psoriasis of the liver, right? That's all specific and it's all sacrifice. You have to metabolize all that stuff, right? And I know that. And there's on season, there's off season for a reason. Like, you don't want to be on that stuff all season. So, you know, I would take the different pillars that your client needs that you love working with, and then I would break each of these pillars down just like I'm talking about the principles of each pillar. And then I would take your principles, which are specifically the things, what are you specifically good? So, like, I'm specifically good around helping people get out of pain because I'm a therapist. And so if someone comes to me and they say, like, I want to work with you on my body, I'll say, that's awesome. If, like, I have a pro boxer I work with, it's like, okay, cool. I'm not going to have you start lifting weights just because I know how to lift weights. That's not going to be specific to what you need. It's like, let's look at what you specifically. So we have to start understanding where our principles and concepts actually fit in for our avatar, if that makes sense. When we
Mm-hmm.
start connecting all those things together, then we can just start building subsystems. And then you can even build worksheet templates.
I think that's what everyone needs and has no idea, yeah, how to really go down that route.
Yeah. And so, like, if we take business, sports and body, spirit, beyond effort, and we take stability and metabolism, that's 6 things inside a system. That would be like evolving performance system, as an example. And then inside of each of those 6, there's like 4 or 5 things. So now I got 30 permutations, and then each one of these things I might want to hit, I create one specific template or worksheet for it. And so you see, it's like we just talked about this, and I just drew this out on a mind map, and now we have probably 30 systems around evolving performance.
Mm. Powerful.
It's
Powerful.
That's how I do it.
Jeez. So, what would you say is the single moment when you made a system that it was like, oh my God, why didn't I do this forever ago?
Every system I make. No.
Every time.
Every system I make every 5 minutes. I've learned now that as I take a course, I make the system. I don't wait to go back. And so when I sit in a weekend course, I will create a whole system for it. Okay. And that's really important. Like I started doing that years ago because I realized whenever I didn't have a system, I regretted it. And so like in training, now there's 2 things. You got to create a system and then you got to train the system. Makes sense? So like you
Mm-hmm.
can't just hand people complex instructions and all these things. You have to give them the experience. That becomes the barrier. So like where I actually feel better in life now, because I have no problem making systems. Every seminar I go to, whether I use it or I don't use it, I make it a system. I could show you systems for pretty much anything inside health and fitness because that's like my main domain that I love to live in. But it's training the system if you're trying to scale it that is important. Because once you train the system, you realize where the gap is in their understanding and your understanding. Right. So, like, same thing with pizzas. Like, oh, if I made 10,000 pizzas, I thought if I made a system, they'd be able to replicate that. But I forgot that the experience of someone who's never made a pizza before is different than 10,000 pizzas. So I may have just taken the new training at Domino's and went, oh, this is great. They say it works for everyone. But I go roll it out with my staff and find out it doesn't because they designed this pizza system for people that own pizza shops that have made 10,000 pizzas. Make sense? And so that's where people actually have regret. They have buyer's regret is not in building the system, it's in training the system.
Mm.
And once you
So
train
I'm
the
going to ask.
system and use it, then you get the benefit. Then you get the expected production. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a tough question, and I feel like you've kind of already answered this. But in everything that you've learned, again, the reason I wanted to bring you on too is because of how many freaking certifications you have, man. Like it's crazy, it's impressive, and it makes me wonder. It's like on the one end, chasing certifications from a place of incompleteness, which I know a lot of people do. I've done myself, but then also like getting to the point of being at the end of the road, if you will, and you've done 30, 40 certifications. It's like you've realized now the truth is, or the simplest way, or the most valuable thing that you can share with people now. Like, what is it?
So the certification thing is really interesting. When I first started, I took information for the sake of thinking information would improve me. And so I built out this whole wall of gym certifications. Now, what I didn't realize is that I needed to be trained in all those things. That makes sense. Like I couldn't just go to a weekend course and know it. Like when I trained with Martin, like and spent a weekend doing sprint mechanics with him, it's like I got exposed to sprint mechanics, but I didn't become a master from doing sprint mechanics for 60 minutes with him. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you get exposed to a lot of information and then you end up looking at what works well for you. So for example, I don't sprint a ton because after a lot of weight training, I don't have good elasticity. Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So elasticity is your ability as an athlete to absorb a force and then reproduce it. And the more weight training you do, the more elasticity you lose because the eccentric length is too long. And also the weight training doesn't have a step through. So I do a split squat, I'm up and down, but in reality, I should be propulsing forward. And so the muscle tissues, they actually warp their attachments because there's no propulsive mechanism to them. And so just because I did just because I did a certification for sprint training doesn't mean I go and sprint all the time because it doesn't really fit my body. okay,
Mhm.
based off
Mhm.
time that I want to allocate. So for me, a lot of times what I look for is what's missing as a whole and a value in my life, and then I go train that. I used to take lots of certifications because I didn't want to miss out. I'd just take continued education and all these things. But now I really just ask myself, like, who am I here to serve? If I know who I'm here to serve, or I know the gap I have in my own problem, like I can't fix this for myself or my audience, then I know there's something else for me to go learn. And then I will go and search for that. But by general rule of recommendation, um, like one thing that I started studying last year and this year was airway. Okay. Why I started studying airway is because when I went to Peru, I couldn't breathe well. My son couldn't breathe well. And other people were fine, but I didn't realize like I have a grade 4 tongue tie. And so that creates an airway occlusion. Okay. And so the reason I started studying that was my 6-year-old, he could not actually open his jaw big enough to get an X-ray, and so he would cry every time they would try to shove the film into his mouth, and so by
Mm.
doing oral myofascial exercises, he was able to open his mouth big enough that he could get the X-ray film in, and I understood that if he didn't get the X-ray, it would be a problem, and I also understood that if he didn't train his tongue a certain way, his teeth wouldn't come in correctly, and that his airway would shrink. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So, my son led me to research airways so I could help him by being the father that I wanted to be rather than pull the teeth out and have his airway shrink. So that's how I usually end up taking courses now. Is not because either I need it for me or someone that I love and care about very deeply, they need it. But I don't take courses for the sake of taking courses, anymore. I did that a lot, over the last 15, 20 years. But not anymore because there's plenty of things that can be done. And I also just keep the people that have the best body of knowledge, I prefer to actually just send my clients to them, okay? And just be like, "Hey, I think this person would be great." Now, the only time that that runs into an issue is when that person's communication is not great or that person's client fulfillment's not great, and then people be like, "They never message me back." I hear this all the time, "They never
Yeah.
message me back. Can you just work with me because they never message me back?" And so then I'm like, "Okay, I have the skills, I can do it." And usually what ends up happening is I follow up with that doctor or practitioner, and they just mentor me on the case, but they won't get back to the client because they don't like working with clients. They like working with doctors. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? And
Yeah.
that happens all the time for me. Like, people don't understand. It's like, if they get on a call, if the doctor gets on a call with me and I'm training this system and you spend 60 minutes, I've got a year plan for you in 60 minutes. If he gets on a call with you and he has to explain everything to you, that's 3.5 hours and you don't even have a 30-day plan. You
Mm.
think a
Yep.
doctor wants to spend 3.5 hours to do that again and again with you for a year? Like, they don't wanna do it, and so, like, it's so much energy to convey this to someone, and so that's really where I, am very blessed that I get to do and be that channel, you could say, okay, where I can sit with the doctor for 60 minutes and get a year-long program versus someone can spend 3.5 hours and just end up confused and not even know what they're supposed to do for 2 weeks, and that's just frustrating for the practitioner, and it's also frustrating for the client.
Mm. So that leads me to then do you ever feel just completely overwhelmed with all the things that you could teach a client?
You know what? No, because the client will always tell me what they need.
So you just use whatever tools you need. It's just nice to have
Yeah,
them all.
yeah. Because if I leave my ego at the door, it's really simple. It's like most clients 90% of the time are gonna need to emotionally regulate themselves, right? Okay, cool. Then they're gonna tell me what they're really here for. And if I don't make it about me, I won't go, "Well, I know a lot of stuff, and so we should do all this fancy stuff." I would just go, "The easiest and simplest way for us to start this process is XYZ." So it's really simple for them. And then I can give them an easy barrier. Like, I could sell everyone $60,000 programs, be like, "Oh, that's the only way you can work with me." But realistically, I'd rather be like, "Hey, it's $2,000 a month. I'll work with you for a month. Try some things. See how it goes. You like it? Makes sense to you? We keep on going." So I'd rather do that. And the reason why is I don't need every single conversation with me to be a transformation experience. I've kind of gotten over that. For my first
Mm.
5
Yeah.
years, it had to be because I was training as a sales coach, if that makes sense. Like,
Mhm.
every single conversation is like, I had to be the coach's coach, and I was held to a really high standard, and I was like, I have to sell these 60K programs, 80K programs, whatever, 30K. It's like everything had to be 5 figures out of principle because people were paying me to teach them how to do that.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? Like, I had pressure on me that I felt like probably self-inflicted to sell the same amount of because I hired a 60K coach, I felt like I needed to charge 60K. That
Yeah.
makes sense. The
Yeah.
only way for me to prove I was a good enough guitarist was to play the piece over and over again until my practitioner said, "You played that better than me."
Mhm.
And so my ego made it about that. Now I don't have that anymore because I've been doing it so long. So it's just like, I'd rather it be accessible for you, and I'd rather us go on this journey together. And if it's right for you, it's great. And if it's not, now there are certain stipulations. So like if someone's like, I'm going to do GI program, but I'm going to do it for 30 days. Well, it's like GI system can de-inflame in 30 days. You're not going to heal a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or a candida problem in 30 days. That's just not how it works. So for those people, I'm just like, listen, we can do 6 months, right? Or we can do 90 days. But if I sell it to you as a sampler and you think that's supposed to deliver the outcome, you're going to have an unmet
Yeah.
expectation of that. Okay.
Mhm.
So there are caveats to that. But, that to answer your question, it's pretty clear to me when I talk to someone what they need. Yeah. And I've gotten some good, I have a good interview process for that. And I also have gotten some good vision gifts from the universe on how to understand and where to start people.
Mm. Okay, so I got a
You know,
double-headed question here. I want to ask you, and we'll wrap it up. I'm curious. Two things. One is if you could go back in time and you're a new trainer, which
Mhm.
certification do you get first?
Do they have one that's gonna allow them to work at a commercial gym so they can get experience with clients yet or not? They don't have anything.
Let's say well they have a personal trainer certification and
Okay.
they're fairly successful. They want
Oh,
to level up.
they don't own their own spot,
Let's
or they
say
do?
no. Let's say no. Let's say no.
Okay. So if you don't own your own spot, you're working at a commercial gym.
But you're
So the
thinking
first
about it.
okay, cool.
Everyone thinks about it, right?
I don't know. The reason I actually didn't really wanna own my own spot, I would have been really happy. Like, the reason I was at LA Fitness for multiple years as the head trainer there was because they just let me do whatever. So, there was no point in me taking on extra stress. Like, I was interested in going and learning and studying with the coaches, right? And so I would just come in and blast as many sessions as I could 3 days a week and then leave. And then my clients would come in and just use all the gear, and it was just fantastic. Like, I don't I don't need to be a person who owns a gym, actually. I own it because it allows me to have people that I can mentor and that can then run things out of the facility. But let's say someone's like, "I wanna start a gym," and they're already good at training, then I wouldn't even worry about getting any more training certs because you're not gonna get a business because you have another training cert. What I would do instead is I'd get a business mentor, and that's what I did. I was like, I studied with an Olympic strength coach, and, he was an Olympics he brought people to the Olympics in swimming and rowing. That was his specialty. And after I studied with him for 1 quarter, he said, "You know way more about training than you need to, and so I have nothing to teach you. In fact, you're kinda teaching me some stuff." And so then he was just like, "Why don't you go and study business? Because 'Cause I'm not good at business." And he said, "I will connect you with Luca Hosfar, who's just great at business." And that's how I met
Mm,
Luca. It was referred by my teacher. My teacher told me, "Don't study with me. It's not a good use of your time. I'm gonna send you to the next teacher." And so if someone's
nice.
coming to me right now and they're just like, "I'm a great trainer and I wanna own my own business." Well, you just need a business mentor then. So it's like, but I wouldn't recommend that you go spend your money on more training because that will never get you your own business. That's in the wrong direction. Yeah.
Yep,
Hopefully,
that's
that
perfect.
that might have been a disappointing answer
No,
to the
no,
question.
I was kind of hoping you'd say that honestly, because like, yeah, going back, it's like, do you continue functional diagnostic nutrition? Like, I've been a personal trainer. There's so many different routes you could take, and it's just
Mm.
like, do you keep getting more certifications, and broaden and have all these tools in your toolbox, or do you really like learn how to build a business and how to scale? Because even if they're not opening a gym, maybe they want to scale online, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to keep doing this one-on-one life. And so, what is it? And then I think that's a very good answer. That it probably is business mentorship. And the last question is I know there's a certification next. I know there is. I know there's one coming for you. So what is it?
I'm in 2 certs right now. I'm in the airway certification, and then the other one's called MoveMed. Okay. I'm doing a MoveMed level 1. That's what I'm in right now. And so MoveMed is, it's about learning how to just try this with me. Close your lips, pinch your nose, and inhale, and you'll feel your body expand from the inside. You feel that?
It's
Okay,
weird,
cool.
yeah.
So it's about recapturing space inside your body when muscle tissue has compressed and closed the space. So there's
What?
a very sneaky way to re-enlarge the body from the inside. So think about like a back pain is the muscle tissue is pushing on your organs. And then when it senses that, your back starts to hurt. So what I'm learning to do is actually recreate pumps in the body from the inside to maintain space and to regain buoyancy in the body that people lose from strength training. So that's what I'm currently studying.
Jeez, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Isaac, for being on the show, man. I want people to be able to find you, so let us know, what your Instagram title is, Facebook, if it's probably just your name, website, wherever people can get to know you more.
Yeah. Isaac Ho Trainer on Facebook. That's the easiest way to see what I post. You're probably gonna be disappointed if you go there because it's gonna be a lot of my artwork, a lot of my sketches.
It's great.
And then if you want to check out my gym or you want to reach out to me, you want to ask me any actual professional questions, best way to reach me is geometry.com. You'll see there's a box up there. If you click that in and you're like, I have a question for Isaac, great, then I can respond to you directly. If you just type something in, one of my team members is going to reach out to you. So if you have a question for me, make sure you say I have a question for Isaac, because otherwise my sales team is just going to reach out to you.
I love that. Awesome. All right, Isaac. Well, thank you, man, for being here, and thank you guys all for watching. I hope there's a lot of gems in here. I know Isaac can go into detail on anything that we talked about. There's so many things that we could have unpacked there. So please, if you do have a question, just hit up Isaac. Can send him a message. He's an incredibly humble guy, down to talk, down to just, as he just did for the past 2 hours, just laid out the knowledge. So definitely take advantage of it if you can, if you get the chance. All right. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Isaac.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Todd. It's been a super pleasure.